Good morning, everyone. I'm CODY WEDDLE in for Ray Gomez. To begin, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro reveals a video that he says shows more far-right plans to destabilize the government. Eurozone ministers in a last-ditch effort to avoid a Greek default and possible exit from the euro. And Wikileaks reveals that the U.S. spied on the last 3 French presidents, including the current president, François Hollande. Good morning, everyone. In Venezuela, President Nicolas Maduro says a new video reveals further far-right plans to destabilize the country. Now, in his weekly show, Contacto con Maduro, the president showed a video that connects opposition leader Antonio Ledesma with Laurent Saleh, Yoni Bolivar, and Leopoldo de Alta. Now, de Alta allegedly provided support to the violent demonstrations in Venezuela last year. Yoni Bolivar is alleged to be responsible for the murder of journalist Adriana Urquiola. Now, he was arrested in Colombia. Leopoldo de Alta was detained in Venezuela. We'll go to Honduras now. That's where, after weeks of protests, President Juan Orlando Hernandez has announced a comprehensive system to battle impunity. Now, he has also called for national dialogue. Still, the Honduran people are continuing their demonstrations against corruption cases that apparently involve the government and allied groups. And we stay in Honduras 24 hours after the start of a hunger strike there. Some believe that the protest is stealing attention from the multi-million-dollar corruption case involving the National Congress vice president. With more now, here's Gerardo Torres.
After a month of protests all around Honduras against corruption, 5 members of the protest movement have begun a hunger strike. Some believe that these actions will remove the focus on the investigations that started last week against high-profile public officials.
These actions have a high media impact that is taking away the attention from what it deserves. That is, the people involved in the corruption cases of the Social Security Institute. I've been informed that the National Congress's vice president, lawmaker Lina Gutierrez, who is the daughter of Marco Tulip Gutierrez, a suspected drug dealer of the country's northern region, is involved 100% in the case of the robbery, but the case has been stopped.
The Gutierrez family is accused of selling fake medicines to the Social Security Institute and earning millions of dollars in the transaction. The fake medicines could be responsible for the death of 100 women that used what was supposed to be vaginal treatment but was in fact made of flour.
The National Congress is part of all this. You can see that any order that comes from the presidency is followed immediately. In this country, they have destroyed completely the public institutions that are all under one person's will, and this is very bad and dangerous for democracy.
Protesters continue to demand that investigations continue even as the hunger strikes continues in camps by the presidential house. Gerardo Torres, Telesur, Central America.
Colombia's FARC rebels have issued a warning to the government that peace talks there will be compromised if the armed conflict escalates. Now it comes after fighting between the two sides resulted in the deaths of 4 soldiers. FARC lead negotiator Ivan Marquez says further victimization due to the fighting must end for peace to be realized in Colombia. Meanwhile, Colombian President Juan Manuel Santos says that the peace process is complicated and won't come to an abrupt end. Staying in Colombia, Colombian rural residents continue to feel uncertainty and concern due to the escalation of the conflict there. They fear it might end up affecting the peace negotiations. They continue to call for a bilateral ceasefire. Our correspondent Natalia Margarita now reports from Bogotá.
In Havana, peace negotiations between the government and the FARC continue to advance, but also the escalation of the conflict in Colombian territories. How many more victims are needed to stop the war is what those who suffer the most out of it are wondering these days.
We call for reasonableness. If there is a negotiation underway, what is the necessity of having more death among peace dialogues? What we want, what Colombians are calling for, is a bilateral ceasefire, an end to the armed conflict.
New Minister of Defense Luis Carlos Villegas has just taken office right in a tense moment that followed relatively calm months. A de-escalation of the conflict was underway due to the FARC's unilateral ceasefire, but that was just until it was suspended as a result of the government's denial to reciprocate the unilateral truce.
During the months of unilateral ceasefire, it was evident that it is possible to de-escalate the conflict, to lower the intensity, and even to end it. And that is what we believe should be the essential approach of the new Minister of Defense.
FARC commander and member of the peace delegation Iván Márquez has appealed to the government, saying that the armed confrontation should no longer be the background of the peace process. However, President Santos insists there will not be a truce until a final peace agreement is reached, and that was the instruction he gave to his new Minister of Defense.
There will be more dead people, for all those dead are campesinos, Afro-descendants, indigenous, the humble and poor people of the rural areas. The dead are not among the rich, neither among those who rule the countries. Also because the soldiers sent to war are campesinos too.
Social organizations see the bilateral ceasefire as a way to alleviate those living in the war zones, but also to push forward the negotiations in an atmosphere of trust. Natalia Margarita, Telesur, Bogotá, Colombia.
And meanwhile, Colombia has sent a letter of protest to the Venezuelan government over its opening of maritime boundaries between the two countries. Colombia's Foreign Minister Maria Ángela Holguín says negotiating committees should be established to debate the disputed maritime border. And in Chile now, teachers decide today whether they will continue the strike declared over 2 weeks ago over a new educational reform. Teachers' representatives have met with government officials who agreed to incorporate the points raised into the bill. Last week, the Chilean parliament sent a proposal which incorporates changes over several points in the original project, which sparked the strike. The new proposal does not modify the remuneration system based on longevity and instead introduces a set of standards for entry along with a performance midterm evaluation. The proposal also offers an increased salary for new teachers and an incentive for beginners. Eurozone finance ministers are due to meet again Wednesday night in Brussels. Now it comes after Greece's recent proposals aimed at avoiding default and a possible exit from the euro.
In a last attempt to reach an agreement, Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras offered a raise in a range of taxes, including a VAT and pension and healthcare contributions, as well as a commitment to phase out early retirement from next year. However, the IMF is still unhappy with the balance between spending cuts and tax rises, pushing for further cuts in government spending. Many Greek civilians, as well as politicians, feel betrayed.
The lenders are trying to strangle our country's economy. They are trying to subjugate the government and tie up, hand and foot, an entire nation.
The government of the United States has been spying on the last 3 French presidents, including current leader François Hollande. That's according to documents released online by Wikileaks. Documents, which are classified as top secret, also reveal that Hollande approved secret meetings on the consequences of a Greek exit from the Eurozone as early as 2012. The spying spanned 2006 to 2012. The documents showed the other presidents spied were Jacques Chirac and Nicolas Sarkozy. Members of the U.S. Senate approved a legislative measure that will grant President Barack Obama with fast-track negotiating authority for the controversial Trans-Pacific Partnership trade deal. The bill will prevent Congress from amending free trade deals negotiated by the president. It just scraped the 60-vote minimum needed for its passage. The TPP is massive, controversial free trade agreement, which has drawn criticism from many. In Spain, leader of Podemos, Pablo Iglesias, is meeting Izquierda Unida candidate Alberto Garzón to discuss the confluence between the two leftist parties in regards to the general elections to be held by the end of the year. The main goal is to form a candidacy of popular unity as the only way to oust the socialist and popular parties. At least 18 people have been killed in an attack at a traffic checkpoint in China's far western region of Xinjiang, home to the Muslim Uyghurs. Suspects, who seem to be part of this ethnic group, killed several police officers with knives and bombs after speeding through the checkpoint in a car. The attack occurred at the beginning of the Muslim fasting month of Ramadan on Monday in the southern city of Kashgar. Tension between the Uyghurs and the majority Han Chinese had led to bloodshed in recent years in the region.
With the quarterfinals taking place in the Copa America, Uruguay striker Edinson Cavani could miss the match against Chile following his dad's involvement in a fatal car crash in his country. Luis Cavani knocked down and killed a 19-year-old motorcyclist on Monday night while driving a truck owned by his son. He was detained by police in the town of Salto. Uruguay has qualified as one of the best third-place teams in Group B behind Argentina and Paraguay. They will be facing Chile, who topped its Group A and is on fire on its home turf. RSE Ventures, the owner of the Miami Dolphins, is joining forces with Qatar to buy a controlling stake in Formula One. Now, RSE is looking to acquire the 35.5% stake from private equity fund CVC Capital Partners. That company has twice tried to float Formula One, most recently in 2013. Qatar's Nasser Khalifa Al Attiyah is a vice president of the International Motorcycling Federation and the Formula One's governing body, the FIA. The deal is worth around $7 to $8 billion. Goldman Sachs is working with CVC, while JP Morgan is working with the buy-side investors. Formula One has had major challenges to address, including soaring costs, struggling teams, failing viewing figures in some regions, and a failure to engage a younger audience. That's what we're covering this morning from Caracas. Thanks for joining us. We have plenty more on those stories and others at our website, telesurtv.net/English. For Telesur English, I'm Cody Weddle. Have a great day.